Each day you spent at Azovstal, you bravely crossed another uncharted frontier, made a kind of mini-morgue. They carried the bodies there, stacked them, and here already like an angel. I sat in the back seat on the fighters. For around 5 hours, they beat all the individuals who were tied up. It was the most brutal reception in Russia ever. I lost consciousness multiple times. I was taken in for questioning, where they covered my head with a bag and attached wires to my pinky fingers. They said that tomorrow is your birthday, so tomorrow we will take you to the execution. The sign will have a beautifully even date. Tatarenko Vladimir Sergeyevich was born in the city of Mariupol, engaged in business. We had a private company and we were engaged in advertising business with my father. I had opportunities to place social advertising. Many people came to me, addressing various topics. Then in 2014, more began military projects. That is, Yulia Paevskaya, a Taira civil association. This is where there are no salaries, nothing, just on pure enthusiasm, as they say. Since 2014, I have been acquainted with and aided the guys, and I have consistently stayed in contact with them, engaged in medical evacuation, that is, the evacuation of the wounded from the battlefield to the first point of medical assistance. 2 days prior to the invasion, we made our way back to Mariupol and successfully completed our mandatory quarantine on the street. The children were required to attend school. They made the decision to go and return to Mariupol together with their family. War started. The path to Azovstal was thorny, of course, but from the beginning of the war, in the first days, I tried to join the ranks in the armed forces of Ukraine. There was a military unit nearby, but there was panic and confusion about what to do with us, because under the military unit there were 150 people. Volunteers were standing and already wanted to start fighting. There were also air raids. They were dispersing. In general, I couldn't do it for 2 days, so I called the guys. And so it began. Away we went. Initially, I found myself at the 555th Hospital. Tyra generously donated a car to the BSMC hospital and entrusted them with the task of ensuring security and functioning of the hospital, which is of utmost importance for the well-being of patients and staff. So me and 10 guys from TRO ended up in the emergency medical care hospital. This hell was happening. The hospital was filled with guys, soldiers, and 300 wounded. Additionally, a significant number of civilians were also arriving. I saw everything, both children and women. Scary frames, especially when the mother took the child out of the car when it flew into orbit. We started to take the child out of the car. A fragment fell out of it. Mom chased us with this shard, thinking it was an organ. It fell out of her. Take a look. 10, 12-year-old girl. There were instances when a family with a baby arrived, and the parents were unable to reach their physicians, so they were frantically searching, and in the meantime, the child stayed with us in the hospital's bomb shelter. The child needed both diapers, bottles, pacifiers, and baby food. Such tasks were set to find it in Mariupol. Then the difficult ones began. There were battles in the city, and the ring was getting tighter and tighter. And it became clear that it was necessary to evacuate, because the hospital, surgery, all of this is on the first and second floors. You need to go underground already, because the bombs are serious. Destruction, the first arrival, which was right on the guy's operating table. The operation was underway, a bomb was dropped, and they were already removing him from the table after they dug him up. There were multiple passages. Then an explicit order was given to take the passage numbered 300 in the sequence. Sat down, went, drove 300th, stayed at the plant in Azovstal. The day started for me. I tried to wake up around 4, at 3:45 in the morning, before dawn. Make yourself ready, gather a team. As per my usual routine, I would take 2 people with me. Around 4:30 in the morning, while it is still dark, the fog is especially challenging for those who cannot have children. while staying hidden, and they went to buy groceries. The hospital needed to be supplied with food. We had a maximum of 200 to 350 people who were injured in the hospital. Well then, further acceptance. 300 of them were brought to the bomb shelter. It was necessary to transport the injured individuals through the flights of stairs using stretchers. The work was constant. Every trip resulted in a punctured wheel, necessitating the dismantling of the wheel for repair or replacement after each journey. Next arrival was already next to the hospital, and the shock wave hit the box. Just as the operation was going on in the operating room, the guys there were severely burned by gases. A good friend of mine sent me a mantra. I read both mantras and prayers there. Everyone prayed. Everyone prayed because when you went to spin the wheel or something else, you hear when a rocket or plane is flying, and you understand that you won't be able to run anywhere anymore, and they hid under some barrels or some piece of iron. At these moments, yes, everyone was praying. Each day you spent at Azovstal, you managed to achieve another remarkable new milestone. What really upset me, I must say, is that the guys were dying and there was nothing I could do to save them. There were 200s, and we needed them. Somehow collect, store, I am unable to find the right word to describe the process, and they found a dry place, sheltered from the sun, from the water, and made a kind of mini morgue. The guys, along with the troopers, carried the bodies to the location and stacked them. And here, already feeling like an angel, I took my place in the last seat among the fighters. Hatred, undoubtedly, was indeed present. Additionally, there was an intense and unwavering desire for revenge that could not be ignored. And there, due to my own foolishness, I also foolishly encouraged everyone to go to Mariupol for the parade on May 9th. We understood that we won't get out of here anymore. It is better to die in a beautiful way. Since I was accountable for numerous matters on the locomotive, I remained. The three of us were the last ones to leave this hospital. First, they took out the 200s, 300s. Once I was a conductor, guiding people on their first trip and ensuring a delightful journey for all. I proceeded towards the exit as I was apprehended by them unexpectedly. The barracks is 2-story. These are simple rooms without a bed, without anything. They slept either on a concrete floor or on pallets. Then they gave a vertuhai, and on the pallets they somehow managed to spread out. There were tortures and beatings, and all of this was happening. They received it, and after a month, let's assume, he arrived. He was a completely changed individual. It was a distinct, vacant expression. It's always with hands behind the back, and that's the extent of it. Their objective was to break individuals. I endured their efforts to break me during my stay in Elinovka from May 20th to October 3rd. It has been 4 months. The most hardcore people were already in Russia. We have obtained reeds. There was a certain level of acceptance, commonly referred to as so-called by some. About 5 hours they beat all the tied-up people. We were dropped off from the cars. We were forced to squat, with hands tied and blindfolded, enduring relentless beatings for about 4 hours. They used sticks and electric shocks, inflicting unimaginable pain. Those who had tattoos were beaten even harder. One had a tattoo with a carbine, while the other had his favorite pit bull knocked out on the mast. He was mistaken for a Nazi, deemed a terrible person. Later, I discovered that this reception became infamous in Russian prisons as the most brutal ever. It reverberated throughout all prisons, creating a lasting impact. People were unable to handle it. I lost consciousness on multiple occasions. In this context, there was the sound of a woman's laughter, the groaning of people, and another round of a woman's laughter. And it was exactly that kind of dissonance that stood out. Terrifying. Initially, there were 16 individuals, but subsequently 4 were removed, leaving a remaining count of 12. All of them were versatile, including a conscript, a civilian, and generally someone who unintentionally found themselves there, but ended up in a horrific, hellish situation. They did not care where you were. You are not a grandfather. You limp, your hand did not heal, and it dangles. They beat everyone the same way in the same place. The following day, the camera is brought out into the corridor, and they recognize these ribs. They recall us. They are aware of where to go. There, along the ribs once more. And this, well, you can't sleep for a day, you can't turn around, you can't take a deep breath. You sit like this, hunched over, cramped. And the next day you begin letting go. You start taking breaths again. This torture chamber was next to our cell, and we heard screams coming from there daily. Just these screams were no longer human. It was an animal scream when a person, well, literally, merely half steps away from the clutches of death. It was nothing but sheer cruelty devoid of any discernible motivation. The guy himself was a conscript, 21 years old. Young, my daughter is slightly younger, and they attached wires to him, to male genital organs, and they tortured somewhere for about an hour. They were beaten with electricity. When he came, he couldn't speak. And I say, did he arrive as we wanted to ask? Well, nothing exceptional, he's a conscript. What knowledge can he possess? He merely joined the army to serve his duty. And to show such cruelty towards him, towards a person who, well, a young soldier, a child, that's scary. October 27th. The day prior, I underwent interrogation. A bag was placed over my head. Wires were tied to my pinkies, and I was detained in that location for a duration of 1 hour. There were electrophoresis procedures. The organs are failing. I have a lot of internal organs there the next day. I felt pain and realized something was already not working. They thought I was some kind of Marine or something. I'm not picky. That's why they mentioned tomorrow as your birthday, and we plan to take you to the execution tomorrow. The sign will have a beautifully even date. 47 there I slept. Yes, in the morning indeed, at 5 in the morning they came and said, let's go. When they came out of the barracks, they immediately gave us the things we arrived in. And this really alarmed me, because they took away their robe, but separated us in clothes. Well, like, I understand that here either or something will happen. And then, when they only gave out dry rations, I realized that most likely it was exchanges. I began calming the guys, saying they don't provide dry rations for execution. You know, I was most likely available all the time. Despite that, I dedicated myself to internal training and self-support, ensuring my own growth and well-being. The only phrase I fell asleep in commission with, "What didn't kill me ended up making me stronger." If I live through this day, it signifies my strength has grown. Overwhelmed by emotions, of course, but becoming stronger every day. It was incredibly arduous and required immense effort to overcome. And the feeling of joy and the fact that we won, that's what I felt. This company gathered in Zeleziaka and Elenovka, uniting in one barracks for the guys. And we supported each other, shared a piece of bread, there, a glass of water or something else there. I firmly believe that the history of the defense of Mariupol will undoubtedly enter, so to speak, into the grand annals of history, leaving an indelible mark. The actions taken by Azovstal's heart are not only right and necessary, but also highly beneficial for individuals. What they are doing is not only very useful, but also commendable for people. Victory is ours. We have already won. I see in these Russian dropouts, and I saw their motivation, and saw what it is and how it is. We went crazy. We are free, and freedom is not given, freedom is overwhelmed.